I came home 2 days early from sea trials to surprise my wife. Instead, I found her base access badge on the kitchen counter at 2 in the afternoon on a Tuesday, when she'd told me she was avoiding the base entirely. The common access card was standard issue, blue and white plastic with that distinctive Department of Defense seal, Kate's photo staring back at me with that harsh military ID lighting. But when I picked it up, the plastic was warm, not room temperature, warm, body warm, like she'd just pulled it off her lanyard minutes before I walked in. The flower pattern lanyard lay next to it. That cheerful fabric she'd picked out at the Navy Exchange, saying it made the military ID less depressing. Now it just looked like camouflage. "Kate?" I called out. She appeared from the bedroom, and I watched her eyes go to the badge on the counter. Just for a second. A flicker of something. Panic? Calculation? Then she smiled. "Jim, you're home early. I thought you had another day of trials." "We finished ahead of schedule." I held up the badge. "This was on the counter. Thought you said you were avoiding the base these days." Her laugh came too quickly. "Oh, I had to pick up some documents from the Family Readiness office. You know how it is, in and out." I ran my thumb over the magnetic strip on the back, still warm. "What time were you there?" "I don't know. Maybe lunchtime? Why does it matter?" It was 2:17 p.m. I'd been timing conversations for 16 years in the Navy. You learn to read people. You learn when someone's calculating their answer instead of just giving it. "It doesn't," I said, but it did. She kissed my cheek and took the badge, clipping it back onto her lanyard. "I'm so glad you're home. I was just thinking..." She paused, looked at me with an expression I'd never seen before. "Jim, I need to talk to you about something." My chest tightened. 16 years of marriage. 14 years since we'd said our vows in that little chapel in Coronado. And I'd heard that tone before, from sailors who were about to tell me something that would change everything. "What's going on?" She sat down at the kitchen table, folded her hands. "I'm not sure about us anymore." The words hung in the air like smoke. Not sure about us, present tense, ongoing uncertainty, not "I've been thinking" or "I need space." Present, continuous, active. "What does that mean?" My voice stayed level. "Officer training. Keep your composure. I don't know if this is working. The deployments, the distance, you're always gone, and when you're here, you're not really here. You're thinking about the ship or the sailors or the next training cycle." Standard deployment spouse complaints. I'd heard them at every family readiness meeting from every couple who struggled with the military lifestyle, but Kate had never said them before, not in 14 years. "Kate, I just got home. Can we talk about this after..." "That's exactly what I mean." Her voice rose slightly. "It's always after the deployment, after the inspection, after the promotion ceremony. When is it about us, Jim?" I wanted to argue, wanted to point out that she'd known what she was signing up for when she married a naval officer. But something in her eyes stopped me. Something that looked almost like relief, like she'd been waiting to say this. "Okay," I said carefully. "We can work on this. We can go to counseling. I need some time to think." She stood up. "I'm going to stay with my sister for a few days, just to clear my head." And then she left, walked out of our kitchen, packed a bag in under 10 minutes, and drove away, while I stood there holding a coffee mug and wondering what the hell had just happened. The badge, still warm. That specific warmth that comes from being carried against someone's body. I pulled out my phone, opened the Find My app. Kate's location, our house. Signal must be from her iPad. She'd left it on the counter. The iPad was unlocked. I know what you're thinking. Checking your spouse's messages is a violation of trust, an invasion of privacy. But here's what I learned in the Navy. When something doesn't add up, you investigate. When the facts don't match the narrative, you look deeper. And when someone says, "I'm not sure about us," while wearing a badge that's warm from their body heat after claiming they weren't at the base. You check the goddamn iPad. The Messages app was open, synced to her phone, and right there at the top of the conversation list, John Brennan. Lieutenant John David Brennan, supply officer, single, 32 years old, under my indirect command, and 6 months of messages. I scrolled back. Blue message bubbles on the left, gray on the right, Kate's in gray, John's in blue. Can still taste your lipstick from this morning. Saturday can't come fast enough. That was from yesterday, while I was at sea trials running damage control drills with 300 sailors who trusted me to lead them. I kept scrolling. He called from the ship tonight, told me he loves me. I felt nothing. That was from last Tuesday. I had called her from 6,000 miles away between mission briefs to tell her I loved her further back. 3 more months until his deployment ends. We have all the time in the world. That one was dated February. I'd been deployed since January. 3 more months. Calculated, planned, deliberate. I scrolled all the way back. 6 months of messages. Every single one sent while I was at sea. Morning texts about weekend plans. Late night messages about where to meet. Discussions about timing, about being careful, about making sure I didn't find out. There was a photo. Kate had sent it. I won't describe it, but it was taken in our bedroom, our bed, while I was deployed. The iPad made a small chime, new message coming through. John, sorry about earlier. Didn't mean to leave the meeting like that. You okay? Kate, yeah, he came home early. I told him I need space. John, good, that's good. Gives us more room to breathe. Kate, I hate lying to him. John, you're not lying. You do need space. You're just not telling him everything. Kate, when are you free tonight? I set the iPad down. Carefully, precisely, the way you'd set down something explosive. My hands weren't shaking. That surprised me. I'd expected rage, expected to want to put my fist through the wall or throw something, but instead I felt cold, calculating. The same way I felt when we were running combat drills and something went wrong. Emotion later, problem solving now. The doorbell rang. Through the window, I could see Master Chief Sarah Rodriguez standing on my front porch. Out of uniform, civilian clothes, which meant this wasn't an official visit. I opened the door. Sir? She didn't salute, didn't smile, just looked at me with those eyes that had seen 24 years of Navy life and knew when something was wrong. We need to talk. Come in, Master Chief. She walked to the kitchen table, sat down, pulled a manila folder from her bag. I'm going to tell you something, Commander, and you're going to hate me for it, but I'd rather you hate me than stay in the dark. She opened the folder. Inside were printed spreadsheets, security logs, columns of numbers and timestamps in that distinctive base security format, green for entry, red for exit. These are the base access logs for Mrs. Mitchell's CAC card, the past 6 months. She slid them across the table. I pulled them yesterday after I saw something that bothered me. I looked at the logs, 23 entries, all during my deployment, all during times when Kate had told me she was avoiding the base because it made her lonely. The timestamps, Master Chief said quietly. They match Lieutenant Brennan's off-duty hours, all 23 entries. I looked up at her. How did you... Because I've been in the Navy for 24 years, sir, and I've seen this pattern before. Her voice was gentle, almost maternal. I'm sorry, I hoped I was wrong. You're not wrong. I know. We sat in silence for a moment. The clock on the wall ticked. Somewhere outside, a car drove past. What are you going to do? She asked. I don't know yet. Sir. She leaned forward. With respect, you do know. You're just afraid of what it means. She was right. I did know. Because I'd spent 16 years learning what integrity meant in the Navy. Learning what the words honor, courage, commitment actually meant when they cost you something. The Navy's core values. The same words I'd recited at my commissioning, the same words I'd said in my marriage vows: to honor Kate, to have the courage to stand beside her, to commit to our marriage through everything. But those words meant something different now. If you've ever had someone you trusted show you evidence you didn't want to see, someone who cared enough to tell you a hard truth, just type brotherhood in the comments. Sometimes loyalty means showing up with bad news. You're not alone in this. Master Chief stood up. Whatever you decide, sir, I've got your 6. Thank you, Master Chief. She left, and I sat there with the iPad, the security logs, and the weight of what came next. I walked to my home office, the one room in the house that was still mine. Navy plaques on the wall, my dress uniform hanging in the corner, and there on the desk was the ship's deployment photo, USS Halsey crew photo, 300 sailors in dress whites on the deck, the American flag as our backdrop, gold frame with the ship's crest engraved on a brass plate, the photo they took before we deployed. I picked it up, heavy, 8 pounds of frame and glass and memory, and there in the back row was Lieutenant John David Brennan, smiling. I stared at that photo for a long time because the deployment photo was taken in January before we left, and John was in it, but John wasn't deployed. He was a supply officer assigned to shore duty. He attended the photo op for the publicity, for the appearance of being part of the crew. But when we left, he stayed behind with Kate. While I was 6,000 miles away, calling my wife to say I loved her before heading into a mission brief, John Brennan was staying behind, with access to my home, with access to my wife, with access to 6 months of lonely deployment spouse meetings where Kate coordinated the Family Readiness group. I set the photo down, carefully. Then I opened my desk drawer. Inside was a blue velvet box, navy blue, worn soft at the corners from 30 years of storage. The brass clasp was cool against my thumb when I opened it. My father's Admiral stars, 4 gold stars on each collar device, the rank insignia he'd worn when he commanded a carrier group, the ones he'd been wearing when his helicopter went down 5 years ago. The metal was heavy in my hand, cold at first, then warming with my body heat. There was slight tarnish on the backs, oxidation from his sweat, from the years he'd worn them with honor. My father had built his career on integrity, on doing the hard thing when it cost him something, and his dying words in the hospital before they couldn't do anything more were simple. Protect what we built. Protect your family. But what if your family is what threatens everything you've built? What if the marriage you thought you had never existed? What if honor, courage, and commitment, the Navy's core values, and the marriage vows I thought we shared, what if they only meant something to one of us? I pulled out my challenge coin, the bronze coin I'd carried for 16 years, 1.75 inches across, Navy anchor on one side, honor, courage, commitment on the reverse, worn smooth from being in my pocket through 3 deployments, through my wedding, through Emma's birth. The coin was warm from my body heat, always warm, like it had absorbed 16 years of my service. I flipped it once, caught it, held it tight. Then I looked at the clock. 0317, 3 in the morning, but this couldn't wait. I picked up my phone, scrolled to Patricia Walsh, Lieutenant Commander, JAG officer, the lawyer who'd been on my last deployment and who'd become a friend. It rang 4 times. Mitchell? Her voice was thick with sleep. It's 3 in the morning. What's wrong? Patricia, I need to report a fraternization violation under Article 134 of the UCMJ. Silence. Then, okay, I'm listening. The accused is Lieutenant John David Brennan, Supply Officer, Naval Base Point Loma. The victim... I paused, let the weight of it settle. The victim is my wife, Catherine Ann Mitchell. The relationship has been ongoing for approximately 6 months. I have electronic evidence, security logs, and witness statements. More silence. I could hear her sitting up, hear the rustle of papers. Jim, she said carefully, You understand what this means? Once I file this report, it becomes official. Your family becomes part of the public record. The investigation will be formal. There's no taking it back. I looked at my father's stars in my hand, thought about the 16 years I'd spent in the Navy, the 300 sailors who trusted me to lead them with integrity. I know, I said, but the alternative is letting him get away with it, and I didn't spend 16 years learning about honor just to ignore it when it cost me something. All right, I'll start the paperwork. We'll need a formal statement. I'll need all the evidence you have, and Jim... She paused. I'm sorry. Me too. I hung up, set my father's stars on the desk, placed my challenge coin next to them. Then I sat there in my office at 3 a.m, holding the deployment photo, looking at John Brennan's smiling face in the back row, and I wondered how many of my 300 sailors already knew. Patricia called back at 07:30. I hadn't slept. The investigation is official, she said. Commander Robert Chen will be the investigating officer. He'll want to interview you formally. Robert Chen, my Naval Academy classmate. We'd been roommates sophomore year. He'd been at my wedding. Emma called him Uncle Rob. When? I asked. Today. 1400 JAG offices. Understood. I showed up in my service khakis, pressed, crisp, because that's what you do. You put on the uniform and you show up and you maintain bearing even when your life is falling apart. Robert was waiting in interview room 3, the formal one with the recording equipment and the witness chair and the American flag in the corner. He stood when I entered. We didn't shake hands. Jim. His voice was careful, professional. Please have a seat. I sat. He sat across from me with a legal pad and a folder that was already thick with printed evidence. This interview is being recorded for the official investigation into alleged violations of Article 134 UCMJ, fraternization and conduct unbecoming an officer. Do you understand? I understand. I need you to state for the record your name, rank, and position. Lieutenant Commander James Robert Mitchell, Executive Officer, USS Halsey, DDG 97. Robert opened the folder. I could see the printouts inside, white paper, blue and gray message bubbles. The same messages I'd read on Kate's iPad, now formatted as official evidence. You reported a fraternization violation involving your spouse, Catherine Ann Mitchell, and Lieutenant John David Brennan. Can you describe how you became aware of this relationship? So I told him everything. The warm badge, the iPad, the messages, Master Chief's security logs, 6 months of calculated deception while I was at sea protecting our country. Robert took notes, didn't look at me, just wrote in that careful handwriting he'd had since the academy. When I finished, he set down his pen. Jim, you understand that once this investigation is official, there's no taking it back. Your family will be part of the public record. The entire base will know. Emma will know. Your mother will know. I know. And you understand that I have to investigate this impartially. That means interviewing Kate, interviewing John, interviewing anyone who might have witnessed their relationship, including potentially pulling security camera footage from the base. Security camera footage. I hadn't even thought about that. Do it, I said. Robert looked at me for a long moment. Jim, we've been friends for 20 years. I was at your wedding. I held Emma when she was 3 days old. And I'm telling you, as your friend, not as the investigating officer, this is going to get worse before it gets better. I know. He slid a document across the table. These are the formal charges we're considering. Article 134, fraternization between officer and spouse of a superior officer in the chain of command. Conduct unbecoming an officer. If substantiated, Lieutenant Brennan could face court-martial or non-judicial punishment. I read the document. Legal language. But underneath all the formal terms, it meant one thing. John's career would be over. Robert tapped the folder. We've already printed the text messages, 114 pages. Patricia had them printed this morning as official exhibits. 114 pages. I thought about the weight of that. 2 pounds of paper, 6 months of betrayal reduced to exhibits marked A through Z and beyond. Jim. Robert's voice softened. You can still stop this. You can withdraw the complaint, handle it privately, divorce, move on, keep it out of the military justice system. I thought about my father's stars on my desk at home, thought about the 300 sailors who looked to me to lead with integrity. No, I said, the uniform demands integrity, in the wardroom and in your home. If I let this slide, what does that say to my sailors? Robert nodded slowly, picked up his pen again. Then we proceed. I'll need all the evidence you have, and Jim, prepare yourself. This is going to hurt. The interview took 3 hours. Every message, every timestamp, every detail of when I'd called Kate from the ship and what she'd been doing instead of answering. When we finished, Robert handed me a copy of the investigation timeline. Article 32 hearing in 12 days, he said. That's the military equivalent of a grand jury. We present evidence. A panel decides whether to recommend court-martial or non-judicial punishment. 12 days. And I still had to lead my sailors, still had to show up at morning muster and pretend everything was fine while John Brennan stood in formation. I left the JAG office and drove straight to the ship. Morning muster was at 0745. I stood at the head of the formation, 300 sailors in their Type 3 camouflage uniforms, Master Chief Rodriguez to my right, and somewhere in the third row, Lieutenant John David Brennan. Attention on deck! Master Chief's voice carried across the pier. 300 sailors snapped to attention. I looked out at them. Young men and women who'd volunteered to serve, who trusted me to lead them with honor, who believed the Navy's core values meant something. At ease, I said. Morning, sailors. Good morning, sir. They responded in unison, the way we'd done it 1,000 times before. I went through the plan of the day, maintenance schedules, training requirements, upcoming inspections. My voice stayed level, professional. No one would know that I'd spent the night reading my wife's affair messages and filing formal charges against one of our officers. Honor, courage, commitment, I said at the end, the same closing I always used. Live them, not just on the ship, but everywhere you go. These aren't just Navy values, they're life values. Dismissed. 300 sailors broke formation, started their workday, and Lieutenant John Brennan walked past me to head to his supply office. Our eyes met for half a second. He knew. I could see it in his face, the slight tightening around his eyes. The way his hand moved to his phone pocket. Kate must have told him, but he saluted, and I returned it. Because that's what you do. You maintain protocol even when you want to put someone through a bulkhead. Master Chief Rodriguez waited until everyone had dispersed. How'd it go with Commander Chen? She asked quietly. Article 32 hearing in 12 days. She nodded. And the ceremony? Your promotion to commander is in 18 days. I'd forgotten about that. The promotion ceremony. Rear Admiral Martinez was flying in. 150 guests. Press from my hometown paper. The whole base would be watching. And traditionally, your spouse pins on your new rank insignia. I don't know, Master Chief. Cancel it? Proceed without... Sir. She looked at me with those eyes that had seen everything in 24 years. Don't you dare cancel that ceremony. You earned those oak leaves. You earned them through 16 years of honorable service. Don't let her take that from you, too. But show them what integrity looks like, Commander. Stand up there and let them see what happens when you choose honor over hiding. I dismissed the formation. John saluted. I returned it. And I wondered how many of them already knew. 2 days later, Robert Chen called me back to the JAG office. We pulled the security camera footage. He said, you need to see this. He loaded a DVD into the player. The case was cheap, clear plastic that cracked when he opened it. Someone had labeled it in black Sharpie. Evidence, case Dodger 2225-447. There was a red security seal sticker across the edge. The disc spun up with that distinctive whirring sound. Timestamp 2147 hours, February 14th, Valentine's Day, while I'd been at sea. Kate's silver sedan pulled into the parking lot outside John's quarters building. The footage was grainy, black and white, but clear enough. I watched her park, watched her walk to Building 7, watched the door close behind her. The timestamp kept ticking, 2200 hours, 2300 hours, midnight, A100, O200. I called her at 2200 that night, I said quietly, from the ship, to say Happy Valentine's Day, to tell her I loved her. Robert didn't respond, just let the footage play. 0623 hours, Kate's car finally left. There are 46 more timestamps like this, Robert said, different dates, all during your deployment, all overnight stays. I watched the screen, watched my wife's car sit in that parking lot all night while I'd been 6,000 miles away, preparing for a mission brief, trusting that she was home, missing me the way I missed her. There's more, Robert said. He fast-forwarded. Different date, different camera angle, my house, my driveway, my front door. John's car pulled up. Used a key to open my door. Entered. The timestamp ticked forward. 3 hours later, he left. How many times? My voice sounded distant, like it was coming from someone else. 7 different dates. He had a key to your house, Jim. I watched the footage. Watched a man I'd trusted, a subordinate officer, enter my home with a key my wife had given him. Where did he get it? Kate gave him a copy. We confirmed it with the base locksmith. She had one cut last November. 9 months ago, while I'd been helping Emma with her college applications, while I'd been preparing for deployment, while I'd been planning our 15th anniversary trip. Robert paused the video, leaned forward. Jim, there's something else. 3 other wives have come forward. Deployment spouses from the Family Readiness group. They say Lieutenant Brennan approached them during their husbands' deployments, made inappropriate comments, offered to help with their loneliness. Nothing physical with them, but the pattern is clear. He targeted deployment spouses. Yes, and Kate helped him. She was the Family Readiness Group coordinator. She gave him access to the spouse meetings, introduced him as a helpful single officer who understood how hard deployments were. She weaponized her position of trust. I stood up, walked to the window, looked out at the base. 5,000 military personnel, families who trusted their leaders, wives who trusted the Family Readiness Group to support them, not to give predators access. What's the timeline? I asked. Article 32 hearing in 10 days. We'll present all this evidence. The panel will recommend either court-martial or non-judicial punishment. Given the pattern of behavior and the violation of chain of command, they'll likely recommend NJP at minimum. His career is over, Jim. Whether it's a court-martial or administrative separation, he's done. Good. Robert handed me a flash drive. Copies of everything. For your divorce attorney. California is a no-fault state, but infidelity still affects spousal support calculations. And this, he gestured at the frozen footage. This is about as clear as it gets. I took the drive, felt the weight of it. Plastic and metal, gigabytes of evidence. My marriage in digital format. Thank you, Robert. Jim, he stood up, put his hand on my shoulder. I know this is the hardest thing you've ever done, but you're doing the right thing for you, for Emma, for every sailor who trusts that integrity matters. I left the JAG office, drove back to base, and tried not to think about the fact that John Brennan had been inside my house 7 times while I was deployed. Captain William Harrison called me to his office the next morning. I reported in, stood at attention in front of his desk. At ease, Jim. Close the door? I did. Sat down when he gestured to the chair. Captain Harrison had been my commanding officer for 3 years. mentor, friend. The kind of leader who taught me what it meant to command with compassion and strength. "I've been briefed on the investigation," he said. "Commander Chen keeps me informed as required. Jim, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for what you're going through. And I'm sorry that it involves one of my officers." "Thank you, sir." He opened his desk drawer, pulled out a small box, official Navy packaging, plastic wrap still sealed. Inside were my commander rank insignia, gold oak leaves, brand new, unblemished, each one weighing exactly 2.1 ounces. "Your promotion ceremony is in 18 days, Captain Harrison said. "Rear Admiral Martinez has confirmed he'll be there. We've got 150 RSVPs. The press is coming, and traditionally," he paused, "traditionally, your spouse pins on your new rank." I looked at the oak leaves through the plastic, shining, perfect, waiting to mark the next chapter of my career. "I can't ask Kate to do that, sir." "I know, so here's your choice, Jim. We can cancel the ceremony. Handle the promotion administratively. No fanfare, no public event. Keep your private life private." I waited. Knew there was a second option. "Or," Captain Harrison continued, "you can stand up there in front of 150 people and the media and show them what integrity looks like. Show them that honor matters even when it costs you everything. Let someone else pin on those oak leaves. Your daughter, your mother, Master Chief Rodriguez, I don't care, but show our sailors what it means to choose values over comfort." I thought about the 300 sailors I led, thought about Emma, who wanted to go to the Naval Academy and follow in my footsteps, thought about my father's stars on my desk at home. 18 days, I said. "The ceremony proceeds. I'll figure out who pins them on." Captain Harrison nodded, handed me the package. "You're doing the right thing, Jim, even if it doesn't feel like it right now. If you were me, would you cancel everything and handle it privately? Type private. Or proceed with the ceremony and show them what integrity looks like? Type honor. What would you do? Both choices have costs. Both require courage. Here's what I decided. I'd stand up there and let them see what happened when you chose honor over hiding. Because what's the alternative? Teach my daughter that when things get hard, you run? Teach my sailors that integrity is negotiable? No. I left the captain's office with the promotion insignia in my hand, gold oak leaves that should have been pinned on by my wife, that would now be pinned on by... who? Emma? My mother? I didn't know yet, but I had 18 days to figure it out. That afternoon, Master Chief Rodriguez found me in my office. "Sir, there's something else you need to know." She closed the door, sat down without waiting for permission, which meant it was bad. "I've been talking to some of the other wives in the Family Readiness group, quietly, off the record. And Kate recruited Lieutenant Brennan to the Family Readiness group, specifically recruited him. Told the group coordinator that he was a single officer who understood deployment stress and that he could provide a male perspective on reintegration challenges. Reintegration challenges. That's what she called it. But what she really did was give him access to the most vulnerable women on this base. Wives whose husbands are deployed, who are lonely, who are stressed, who are looking for support. Master Chief's voice hardened. She turned the Family Readiness group into his hunting ground. I thought about the laminated phone tree, the official Family Support Services document. Kate's name listed as point of contact, a position of trust, a role meant to help military families survive deployments, and she'd used it to enable a predator. "The 3 wives who came forward," I said, "they met him through the FRG?" "Yes, sir, all 3. And I think there are more who haven't come forward yet. Women who got uncomfortable and just stopped coming to meetings rather than make a formal complaint." "Can we confirm that?" "I'm working on it, but sir..." She paused. "The quarterly Family Readiness meeting is in 5 days. Kate's scheduled to lead it. 50 wives are expected to attend. She won't be leading it. I know. But she doesn't know that yet. I looked at Master Chief Rodriguez. 24 years of service. She'd seen everything, done everything, and right now she was telling me something important. What are you suggesting? Your divorce attorney, when are they serving the papers? Next week sometime, they're finalizing the custody language. Serve them at the Family Readiness meeting. I stared at her. What? Let those 50 women see what happens when you betray the trust they placed in you. Let them see that actions have consequences. Let Kate stand there and explain to the wives she was supposed to support why she's being handed divorce papers in front of all of them. It was brutal. It was public. It was exactly what Kate had spent 6 months trying to avoid: exposure. Do it, I said. Master Chief Rodriguez nodded. I'll coordinate with your attorney. She left. And I sat there thinking about the Family Readiness group, about the wives who'd trusted Kate to help them through deployments, who'd shared their fears and loneliness and struggles with a woman who was actively helping an officer exploit those vulnerabilities. The phone tree was still posted on the base website. I pulled it up, laminated, color-coded. Kate's name right at the top, Catherine Mitchell, point of contact. Not for long, I was reviewing deployment schedules when my phone buzzed. Emma. Video call. I almost didn't answer. Didn't want her to see whatever was on my face right now, but she'd know something was wrong if I ignored her. I answered. Hey, sweetheart. Emma's face filled the screen. 19 years old. Home for the weekend from the University of Iowa, NJROTC scholarship, planning to apply to the Naval Academy for graduate school. My daughter, who idolized the military, who believed in the values I'd taught her, who was about to find out her mother had destroyed everything. Dad, are you okay? Mom called and said something weird. Said she's staying at Aunt Lisa's for a while, and you two are working things out. I chose my words carefully. We're having some issues, Em. It's complicated. What kind of issues? Adult stuff, marriage stuff, nothing for you to worry about. Dad. Her voice sharpened, the way it did when she knew I was hiding something. I'm 19. I'm not a kid. What's going on? Em, I can't... Is she cheating on you? Silence. I didn't answer. Couldn't answer, because saying it out loud to my daughter would make it real in a way it hadn't been before. Dad, is she? Emma, oh my God, she is. That's why she's at Aunt Lisa's. That's why you look like... She stopped, stared at me through the screen. Who? It doesn't matter. It does matter. Who is it? I couldn't tell her. Not over video chat. Not like this. She deserved better. Come home this weekend, I said. We'll talk face to face. I'm coming home now. I'll be there in 3 hours. Emma, you don't have to... 3 hours, Dad. She hung up. I sat there holding my phone, thinking about the NJROTC uniform in Emma's closet at home, the one she wore with pride, the one that meant she'd chosen to follow in my footsteps. And I realized I hadn't just failed to protect my marriage. I'd failed to protect my daughter from learning that the perfect military couple she'd idolized her whole life was a lie. 3 hours and 20 minutes later, Emma's car pulled into the driveway. She walked in, dropped her bag, and I saw it immediately. She'd been crying. Her eyes were red, makeup smudged. Emma, everyone at school is talking about it, Dad. Her voice broke. Commander Patterson's daughter is in my ROTC unit. Her dad works at the base. She told me this morning that everyone knows that Mom's been with some lieutenant, that you filed charges, that there's going to be an investigation. Base gossip. 5,000 people. It had taken less than a week. Is it true? Emma asked. Did Mom cheat on you while you were deployed? I wanted to lie, wanted to protect her, wanted to say it was all a misunderstanding, but I'd spent 16 years teaching her that honor meant telling the truth even when it hurt. Yes, I said, it's true. Emma stood there in our living room, and I watched my daughter's heart break in real time. Then she looked down, and I realized she was wearing her NJROTC uniform, the Navy working uniform with her unit patch, the same uniform I'd worn at her age. "I have inspection tomorrow," she whispered. "I wore this today because I was proud to be following in your footsteps, proud to tell people my dad's a naval officer who does the right thing, who lives by honor, courage, and commitment." She looked up at me, tears streaming down her face. "What am I supposed to believe now, Dad? You taught me that marriages like yours were possible, that integrity mattered, that military families were strong because we believed in something bigger than ourselves. What am I supposed to believe now?" I walked over to my desk, picked up my core values coin, the bronze challenge coin I'd carried for 16 years, warm from living in my pocket through 3 deployments, through Emma's birth, through everything. I held it out to her. "This coin," I said. "I got it at boot camp graduation. Honor, courage, commitment inscribed on the back. I've carried it every day since, through every deployment, every hard decision, every moment when I had to choose between what was easy and what was right." Emma took it, looked at the inscription. "What your mother did," I continued, "doesn't change what these words mean. It doesn't change that integrity matters. It just means that sometimes the people we love choose differently than we do. And when that happens, we have to decide who we want to be." "But you're getting divorced." "Yes, because she cheated. Because she betrayed the trust that marriage requires. Because I can forgive a lot of things, Emma, but I can't build a life with someone who spent 6 months lying to me while I was serving my country." Emma held the coin, ran her thumb over the inscription the way I'd done 10,000 times. "Keep it," I said. "Dad, I mean it. You keep it. Because you're going to face moments when you have to choose between easy and right. And I want you to remember that integrity isn't about never getting hurt. It's about what you do when everything falls apart." Emma closed her hand around the coin, nodded. "I love you, Dad." "I love you too, sweetheart." She went to her room, and I stood there in the living room thinking about how I'd failed to protect my daughter from this pain. But maybe that wasn't the point. Maybe the point was teaching her that pain is inevitable and honor is a choice you make anyway. The Article 32 hearing was held in Conference Room B at the JAG building, formal, official, a military tribunal that would decide whether Lieutenant John David Brennan faced court-martial or non-judicial punishment. I sat at the witness table. Commander Robert Chen presided. Captain Harrison sat in the back as an observer. Master Chief Rodriguez was there as a character witness. And Lieutenant John David Brennan sat at the respondent's table with his appointed defense counsel, looking like he'd aged 5 years in 2 weeks. The panel consisted of 3 officers, a Navy captain, a Marine lieutenant colonel, and a Coast Guard commander, all senior enough to understand the weight of what they were deciding. Robert called me to testify first. I stood, raised my right hand, swore to tell the truth. Then I told them everything: the warm badge, the iPad, the security logs, the footage, the pattern of behavior with other deployment spouses. 6 months of calculated deception while I was at sea. The panel listened in silence, taking notes, asking clarifying questions. Robert entered the text messages as Exhibit A. 114 pages. He didn't read all of them, just selected messages that established the timeline and intent. Then he read one message aloud. Kate to John, dated February 17th. "He's deployed for 3 more months. We have all the time in the world." The words hung in the courtroom. Official. On the record. My wife's words about having time because her husband was serving his country. Robert paused, let it land. "Lieutenant Commander Mitchell," he said, "what were you doing on February 17th when this message was sent?" I checked my phone, pulled up my duty logs. I was conducting damage control training at sea. We had a simulated fire in the engineering spaces. I called my wife at 2100 hours that evening to check in. She told me she missed me and couldn't wait for me to come home. And approximately 2 hours later, she sent this message to Lieutenant Brennan. Yes. The panel made notes. John's defense counsel tried to argue that the relationship was consensual between two adults, that Kate had pursued him, that he'd tried to end it multiple times, but she'd persisted. Robert responded by entering the security footage, showing John's car at my house, showing him using a key to enter. Lieutenant Brennan, Robert said, did you have permission from Lieutenant Commander Mitchell to enter his home? No, sir. Did you know that entering a superior officer's home without permission, particularly to conduct a relationship with his spouse, violated multiple articles of the UCMJ? Yes, sir. And yet you did it anyway, 7 times. Silence. The panel deliberated for 40 minutes. When they returned, the Navy captain read their findings. The panel finds sufficient evidence to substantiate violations of Article 134, fraternization with the spouse of a superior officer in the chain of command, and conduct unbecoming an officer. Given the pattern of behavior, the violation of trust, and the impact on command climate, we recommend non-judicial punishment under Article 15. Reduction in rank, forfeiture of pay, and reassignment to shore duty at a different command. Lieutenant Brennan's military career is effectively terminated. I listened to the words, felt nothing, no satisfaction, no victory, just the cold acknowledgement that justice had been done. John stood, accepted the panel's recommendation. His career, over. His reputation, destroyed. His future in the Navy, finished. He didn't look at me as he left. Master Chief Rodriguez found me outside the JAG building. How do you feel? She asked. Empty? That's normal. Justice doesn't feel like victory when it costs you everything. I know. But sir, you did the right thing. For you, for Emma, for every sailor who trusts that integrity matters. I nodded, started walking toward my car. Oh, and sir, Master Chief called after me, the Family Readiness Group meeting is tonight. Your process server has the coordinates. The Family Readiness Group met in Building 412, the community center, 50 folding chairs arranged in a circle, coffee and cookies on the back table, the monthly gathering where military spouses supported each other through deployments and reintegrations, and the 1,000 challenges of military life. Kate was at the front of the room when I arrived. I stayed in the back, out of sight. She was talking about the upcoming deployment schedule, about childcare resources, about how the FRG was there to help families stay strong while their sailors were at sea. The irony was suffocating. Then the door opened. A man in a suit walked in, professional, carrying a manila envelope. Catherine Ann Mitchell? He asked. Kate looked up, smiled. Yes. You've been served. He handed her the envelope, turned, left. Kate stood there holding it, 50 pairs of eyes watching, 50 women who'd trusted her to support them, who'd shared their fears and loneliness with her, who now watched her open an envelope containing divorce papers. She pulled out the documents, read the first page. Her face went white. She looked around the room. I need to step out for a moment. But no one said anything, just watched. Because base gossip travels fast, and everyone in that room already knew why she was being served divorce papers at a Family Readiness Group meeting. Master Chief Rodriguez stood up. I'll be taking over as interim FRG coordinator, she announced. Mrs. Mitchell is stepping down from her position effective immediately. Meeting will resume in 5 minutes. Kate grabbed her purse, rushed out, left the divorce papers on the table. One of the wives picked them up, read the header, passed them to the woman next to her. By the time Master Chief resumed the meeting, everyone knew, and the phone tree was already being updated. Kate's name removed. I left before anyone saw me. That night, Emma came to my office at home. Dad, I need to tell you something. I looked up from the paperwork I'd been pretending to review. What is it? I talked to Mom today. She wanted me to come stay with her at Aunt Lisa's. To talk sense into you. Those were her actual words. What did you say? I asked her if it was true. If she really spent 6 months lying to you while you were deployed. If she really helped that lieutenant target other wives. Silence. And? She said you don't understand. That you were never home. That the Navy always came first. That she was lonely and you were emotionally unavailable and she deserved to be happy. Emma sat down, looked at me with those eyes that saw too much. Dad, she made it sound like it was your fault. Like she had no choice. What do you think? I think she's lying to herself. I think she made choices. And I think she's trying to make those choices your responsibility instead of owning them. I reached across the desk, took her hand. I'm sorry you had to learn this, Em. Sorry that your mother and I couldn't. Don't. Emma squeezed my hand. Don't apologize for her choices. You didn't do this. She did. The door opened. My mother walked in. Margaret Mitchell, 72 years old, Admiral's widow, steel spine and a heart that had buried a husband and raised a son in the military and never once complained about the cost. I heard, she said simply, sat down in the other chair. Heard what? I asked. Everything. Patricia Walsh called me, told me what happened, what Catherine did, what you're doing about it. I waited. My mother had loved Kate, had welcomed her into our family, had helped plan our wedding. I'm proud of you, Mom said. For what? For doing the hard thing, for choosing integrity over comfort, for teaching Emma what honor looks like even when it costs you everything. She reached into her purse, pulled out the blue velvet box, your father's Admiral stars. I want you to carry these, she said, not in a box, in your pocket, right next to that challenge coin. I want you to remember that 3 generations of Mitchell men have worn these values. Your grandfather, your father, now you. And someday, she looked at Emma. Someday, Emma will earn her own. Emma's eyes filled with tears. Grandma, I don't know if I can. After what Mom did, after everyone finds out, what if the Academy doesn't want perfect families, my mother said firmly. They want officers with integrity, officers who know what honor costs, officers like your father. She turned to me. Your ceremony is in 3 days. I'm flying in tomorrow. And I want you to know your father would be proud, not because your marriage succeeded, but because when it failed, you chose to do the right thing anyway. Mom stood, kissed my forehead the way she'd done when I was 8 years old. I'll see you at the ceremony, James. Emma and I will be standing beside you. She left. Emma and I sat in silence for a long moment. Then Emma pulled out the challenge coin I'd given her, the one I'd carried for 16 years. Honor, courage, commitment, she read. I get it now, Dad. I thought these were just Navy values. I thought they were about the uniform and the service and the mission. What do you think now? I think they're about who you are when everything falls apart, when the easy choice is to hide or quit or blame someone else. These aren't Navy values. They're life values. She looked at me. I want to be like you, Dad. And I broke down crying for the first time since this started. Emma moved around the desk, wrapped her arms around me, let me cry on her shoulder the way she'd cried on mine when she was little and the world had hurt her. I'm supposed to be the strong one, I whispered. You are strong, Emma said. This is what strong looks like. We stayed like that for a long time, father and daughter, 2 people choosing honor over comfort, choosing truth over hiding. And I realized I hadn't lost my family. I just discovered who my real family was. The promotion ceremony was held at the base chapel, 150 folding chairs, Navy flags along the walls, the American flag at the front. September sunlight streaming through the windows. Rear Admiral Martinez sat in the front row. Captain Harrison beside him. Master Chief Rodriguez, Commander Chen, Patricia Walsh, every officer from my ship, sailors from my command filling the back rows, and in the second row, Emma in her NJROTC uniform, my mother holding the blue velvet box with my father's Admiral stars. The chaplain called the ceremony to order. Captain Harrison read my citation. 16 years of honorable service, 3 deployments, decorated for valor during counter-piracy operations, mentor to junior officers, leader of 300 sailors. Then came the moment when traditionally your spouse pins on your new rank insignia. The chaplain looked at me. I nodded. Lieutenant Commander Mitchell has asked his daughter and mother to perform the pinning ceremony. Emma and my mother stood, walked to the front, stood on either side of me. The chaplain handed them the gold oak leaves. Commander rank insignia, new, unblemished, catching the light. Emma pinned the left oak leaf onto my collar, her hands steady, her eyes proud. My mother pinned the right oak leaf, her fingers gentle but firm, the same way she'd pinned on my father's Admiral stars decades ago. Where Kate should have been standing, my daughter stood instead, in her NJROTC uniform, with my core values coin in her pocket. I looked out at the crowd, Master Chief Rodriguez in the front row, tears streaming down her face. Captain Harrison saluting, 300 sailors from my command standing at attention, and I realized this was my family. Not the one I'd married into, the one I'd built through honor. Rear Admiral Martinez approached, shook my hand. Congratulations, Commander Mitchell. Your father would be proud. Thank you, sir. Then it was my turn to speak. I stood at the podium, looked out at 150 people who'd chosen to be here, who'd chosen to witness this moment. 25 years ago, I began, I walked into this chapel for the first time as a brand new officer, scared, uncertain, wondering if I had what it took to lead sailors. My father stood where Rear Admiral Martinez is standing now and told me something I have never forgotten. I paused, felt the weight of the oak leaves on my collar. He said, honor, courage, commitment. Those aren't just words you recite at ceremonies. They're choices you make when no one's watching, when doing the right thing costs you something, when integrity means losing everything you thought you had. I looked at Emma, at my mother, at Master Chief Rodriguez. I won't lie to you. The past few weeks have been the hardest of my life. I've lost things I thought were permanent. I've watched my family change in ways I never imagined. I've had to make choices that hurt. Master Chief Rodriguez nodded. But here's what I've learned. Honor isn't about having a perfect life. It's about what you do when life breaks. Courage isn't about never being afraid. It's about standing up when you want to hide. And commitment, true commitment, is choosing your values over your comfort every single time. I pulled out my father's Admiral stars, the ones my mother had given me, held them up so everyone could see. These were my father's. He wore them with honor, died wearing them. And for the past few weeks, I've carried them in my pocket, wondering if I'd failed the legacy they represent, wondering if losing my marriage meant I'd lost everything. I looked directly at Emma, but I was wrong. I haven't lost my family. I've just learned what family really means. Family isn't who you're born to or who you marry. Family is who shows up when everything falls apart, who stands beside you when the truth costs you something, who chooses honor with you even when it hurts. Emma was crying. So was my mother. So was Master Chief Rodriguez. So to my daughter Emma, my voice caught. Thank you for standing beside me, for choosing integrity over comfort, for understanding that sometimes love means having boundaries. You're going to make an incredible naval officer someday, not because you had a perfect family, but because you learned what honor costs. I looked out at my sailors. And to my command, thank you for being my family, for showing me that brotherhood means telling hard truths, that loyalty means standing watch even when it's painful, that the uniform means something because we choose to make it mean something. I straightened, felt the oak leaves catch the light. Honor, courage, commitment, they're not just Navy values, they're life values. And I commit to living them in the wardroom and in my home for as long as I wear this uniform. The chapel erupted in applause. After the ceremony, people filed past, shook my hand, hugged Emma, thanked my mother for raising me right. Master Chief Rodriguez pulled me aside. Sir, the ship's deployment photo has been updated. Lieutenant Brennan's image has been removed. We're rehanging it tomorrow. Thank you, Master Chief. And sir, the updated Family Readiness phone tree has been posted. Mrs. Mitchell's name has been removed. I'm the new coordinator. I know. You'll do it right. She smiled. Damn straight I will. Emma found me as people were leaving. Dad, they want to take a new family photo for the command wall. I followed her outside. The photographer was setting up. Who's in the photo? I asked. You, me, and Grandma, Emma said. 3 generations of honor. We stood together, my mother holding my father's Admiral stars, Emma in her NJROTC uniform with my challenge coin in her pocket, me in my dress whites with brand new Commander oak leaves catching the sunlight. The photographer counted down. 3, 2, 1. The shutter clicked, and I thought, this is what family looks like. Not perfect, not unbroken, but honest, honorable, real. James and Emma redefined what family means that day. Not who you're born to, not who you marry, but who shows up when everything falls apart. If you've built your own chosen family, the people who proved their loyalty when it mattered, tell me about them in the comments. And if this story moved you, if you stayed for all 60 minutes, hit subscribe. I tell stories about honor, betrayal, and finding strength when you need it most. I'll see you in the next one. That night, I hung the new family photo in my office, right next to the updated deployment photo, the one without John Brennan. Emma came in while I was straightening the frame. It looks good, she said. Yeah, it does. She held up the challenge coin. I'm keeping this for when I go to the academy, for when I face my own hard choices. Good. And Dad? I've been thinking about what Grandma said about how the academy wants officers who know what honor costs. Yeah? I think I'm going to write my application essay about this, about watching you choose integrity over comfort, about learning that family isn't who shares your DNA, it's who shares your values. I pulled her into a hug. I'm proud of you, Em. I'm proud of you too. She left, and I stood there in my office looking at the photos on the wall. The challenge coin passed to my daughter. The Admiral's stars returned to active duty in my pocket. The new family photo showing 3 generations choosing honor. Kate filed a counter petition, claimed emotional abandonment, requested 50% of my military pension, painted herself as the victim of a cold, unavailable husband who chose the Navy over his family. Her attorney presented a 40-page declaration, every deployment reframed as neglect, every sea duty assignment reframed as abandonment. My attorney responded with one exhibit, the security camera footage. Kate's car at John's quarters, time-stamped, dated, 47 separate entries. The judge awarded me primary custody of Emma, granted Kate minimal spousal support given the infidelity and short marriage duration, enforced the prenuptial agreement we'd signed. John accepted his non-judicial punishment. Reduction in rank to ensign, forfeiture of half his pay for 6 months, reassignment to a logistics center in Oklahoma. His career was over. He resigned his commission 3 months later. Kate moved to Charleston, back to her family, back to her old life. I stayed at Point Loma, kept leading my sailors, kept teaching Emma about honor, kept carrying my father's Admiral stars in my pocket. And every morning at muster, when I dismissed my 300 sailors, I ended the same way. Honor, courage, commitment, live them, not just on the ship, but everywhere you go. These aren't just Navy values, they're life values. And sometimes the most courageous thing you can do is choose integrity when it costs you everything. 6 months later, Emma received her acceptance letter to the Naval Academy. She called me from her dorm room, screaming with joy. "Dad, I got in! I got in!" I never doubted you would. They said my essay was one of the strongest they'd read, about family and honor and learning what courage really costs. I smiled, pulled out my father's Admiral stars, looked at them in the light. "Your grandfather would be proud, Em. Your father is proud." "I know. And Dad, when I graduate from the academy and get commissioned, I want you to pin on my ensign bars." "It would be my honor." I hung up, sat in my office, looked at the photos on the wall, the updated family photo, 3 generations. Emma in her NJROTC uniform, my mother holding Admiral stars, me in dress whites with Commander oak leaves, chosen family, built on values, forged through fire. And I thought about Kate, wondered if she ever regretted her choices, if she ever looked back and realized what she destroyed. But mostly I thought about Emma, about the woman she was becoming, about the officer she'd be someday, about how sometimes losing everything teaches you what really matters. Honor, courage, commitment, the Navy's core values, the marriage vows I thought we shared. But I was wrong about one thing. Those aren't marriage vows. They're life vows. And I'll keep them, whether I'm at sea or at home, whether I'm married or single, whether life is easy or hard. Because integrity isn't about the circumstances. It's about who you choose to be when everything falls apart. And I choose honor every single time.